My name is Judith. The shrill wail of sirens pierced the tense silence of my parents' opulent dining room. Red and blue lights strobed against the crystal windows, casting an otherworldly glow over the polished mahogany table. My mother, Evelyn, her face ashen, reached across the table towards me, her voice breaking. Judith, this isn't what it looks like. We only wanted to protect the family. To protect you. My father, Henry, his composure shattering, slammed his fist on the armrest, rattling the silverware. This is betrayal after all we've done. You dare to side with outsiders against us? As I watched the officers enter, their faces stern and resolute, I was thrust back in time, to the events that had led me to this moment. I grew up in a family that seemed to have it all on the surface. My parents, Evelyn and Henry, were part of the upper-crust society in Boston. They lived in a large, imposing mansion filled with antique furniture and fine art. But beneath the veneer of wealth and respectability, there was a darkness that I was only beginning to understand. In my early 20s, I saw an opportunity in the changing real estate market of Boston. While my friends were out partying, I was spending my weekends in run-down apartments, scraping off old paint and replacing broken fixtures. I worked tirelessly, reinvesting every dollar I made into flipping houses. By the age of 25, I had managed to purchase my first townhouse. Holding the keys in my hand, I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. I had proven that hard work and determination could overcome a lack of family support. But when I showed my parents my new property, their reaction was dismissive. You were just lucky, my mother said. Without us, you wouldn't have known where to start. My father added, the market could turn at any moment. You need us to guide you. Their words stung, but I was used to their lack of support. I remembered when I was in college, asking them to co-sign my student loan. They refused, saying it would teach me responsibility. So, I worked double shifts, skipped meals, and lived in a tiny, damp apartment. Their refusal had made me stronger, but it also left a deep scar. Over the years, my real estate business grew. I bought more properties, learned to negotiate with contractors and buyers, and built a solid financial foundation. My parents, however, never offered any help. Yet, they started to act as if my success was a reflection of their good parenting. They began to drop hints about merging our finances. Family should stick together, my mother would say over tea. What's the point of keeping things separate when we're all working towards the same future? My father used guilt as a weapon. We've sacrificed so much for you. Don't you think we deserve some security in our old age? At first, I brushed off their comments, thinking they were just trying to stay involved in my life. But there was always a nagging feeling in the back of my mind. One day, I came home early from a property showing and found my father in my apartment. The lease was in my name, and I had just changed the locks. But there he was, rummaging through my desk where I kept my property deeds and bank statements. When he saw me, he looked startled for a moment, then quickly recovered with a forced smile. Just curious, he said. I forced a laugh and told myself he was just old-fashioned. But when he left, I noticed that one of my envelopes was out of place. As the years went by, their comments about unity and legacy became more frequent. I started to realize that they were not just idle remarks. They were trying to take control of my hard-earned assets. Then, one evening, I was invited to my parents' house for dinner. The china glistened under the chandelier, and the table was set with the finest silverware. My mother poured me a glass of wine as my father slid a thick envelope across the table. Judith, he said smoothly, this is about security for you, for all of us. I opened the envelope and scanned the first page. The words were clear. Every account, every investment, every property I had built was to be placed into a family trust, managed solely by them. I felt a knot form in my stomach. They weren't asking, they were demanding. I looked up and saw the faint triumph in their eyes. They expected me to cave in out of duty or guilt. Instead, I smiled calmly and said, if this is truly about trust, then you won't mind what I've prepared. Just then, the butler entered the room. "Ma'am," he said, "your lawyer is here." It was Lily, my trusted lawyer. She walked in with her briefcase, her eyes cool and assessing. My parents stiffened, clearly not expecting me to come prepared. Lily quickly looked through the contract and let out a scoff. "This isn't a trust. It's a complete transfer of authority. If Judith signs this, you'll have total control over her assets." My father tried to defend it, saying it was about protecting the family from risk. But Lily wasn't buying it. If it's about trust, why is Judith the only one surrendering anything? My mother leaned forward, her voice sweet but with an edge. "You know us, Judith. We'd never hurt you. This is just a formality." I sat back, my hands folded in my lap. I could feel their eyes on me, willing me to sign. But I looked directly at them and said, "We're finished here tonight." For the first time, I saw fear in my parents' eyes. It flickered across their faces before they tried to mask it. But I had caught it, and it gave me the strength to stand my ground. My father tried to stop me from leaving. "Sit down, Judith. You're not thinking clearly." My mother added, "There's something you need to hear first. Something that changes everything." Against my better judgment, I sat back down. My father then told me about the Langdon estate in Maine. It had been tied up in probate for years, but the process was almost over. They said it was worth millions and that as their daughter, I would benefit if I signed the contract. They painted a picture of a grand inheritance, a family legacy that I would be a part of. But I could see through their lies. The estate was just a bait, a way to make me give up my independence. After that dinner, I knew I couldn't just let them get away with it. The next morning, I hired a private investigator, Max. He was known for uncovering the truth, no matter how well hidden it was. Within a week, Max presented me with a thick file. The Langdon estate was mortgaged to the hilt. It was collateral for the loans my parents had taken out over the years. Their opulent lifestyle, the fancy parties, and the expensive cars were all a mirage built on a foundation of debt. But the worst discovery was near the end of the file. There was an application for a new credit line in my name, with a forged signature. I stared at the page in disbelief. All those years, when they had talked about teaching me responsibility, they were actually setting me up for exploitation. Lily's voice broke through my shock. "This isn't just manipulation, Judith. It's fraud, and it's criminal." I felt a wave of betrayal wash over me. These were the people who were supposed to love and protect me, and they were stealing from me. As I delved deeper into the past, I remembered all the times they had refused to help me. When I was 10 and wanted piano lessons, they said I needed to learn discipline without indulgence. When I was applying to college, they gave me a lecture about independence instead of offering support. They had conditioned me to accept their neglect, to think that it was normal. I struggled with guilt for a while. After all, they had given me a roof over my head and food on the table. But Lily's words helped me see the truth. Protecting yourself isn't betrayal, Judith. Betrayal already happened to you. Don't mistake survival for selfishness. With newfound resolve, I decided to fight back. Lily brought in a forensic accountant, Oscar, who was able to trace my parents' hidden offshore accounts. The statements were staggering. There were transfers from shell companies, loans upon loans, and debts that seemed to go on forever. Lily assembled all the evidence into a comprehensive file: fraud, attempted forgery, coercion. But I knew that just presenting the facts wouldn't be enough. I also included the pawn shop receipts for the family heirlooms that my parents had sold. These were the tangible proof of their betrayal, of their willingness to sacrifice our family legacy for their own gain. When the next invitation to my parents' house arrived, I knew it was time for the final confrontation. I walked into the dining room with Lily by my side. My parents were confident, thinking I would come alone and give in. But when Lily placed our file on the table and opened it, their faces paled. My mother tried to explain, but her words were empty. My father was furious, calling me a traitor. But I stood my ground. Family doesn't mean ownership. You've mistaken me for your rescue fund. I won't be the solution to your debts. And then, the sirens came. The officers entered, and my parents' world came crashing down. In the weeks that followed, the news of the investigation spread. The Langdon estate was foreclosed, and creditors swarmed their mansion. I watched from a distance, not with joy but with a sense of clarity. Their downfall was their own doing. I took steps to protect my own life. I secured all my property deeds and account statements in a fire-proof safe. I changed locks and updated passwords. For the first time, I felt free from the chains of guilt and expectation. One evening, I sat across from Lily at a quiet wine bar. We raised our glasses. To freedom, hard-earned, she said. To freedom, I echoed, feeling the weight of the past lift off my shoulders. I realized that love could exist without control, and family could be chosen, not imposed. Freedom was my truest inheritance, and I was determined to protect it with everything I had.